Good afternoon. Welcome to the Big Dam. It's your boy Bobby Hill. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope everything is going good with you. Hope you one step closer to your goals, your dreams, or your long term, short term. No matter. You know, and if you're not, man, if you're not one step close to it, I hope you're not sitting up here whining like Stephen A. Smith. You know, I just got a little something I want to say about him a little bit. But as always, as a start out, I'd like to give a shout out to my beautiful wife, Sandra Hill. She's sitting right here in front of me right now, looking all pretty. She got to work today, so she's relaxing. She's told me she wanted to, put some pressure on me. She wanted to see could I, perform right there in front of her without being distracted. I try my best. So if I seem distracted, it's because I'm looking at my beautiful wife, and you understand why. Look at my Facebook page, you'll understand why. But yeah, I like to like I said, she's my number one supporter doing this. She's always here. If she's not here physically, she's here spiritually, she's here emotionally. In every way that she can be here, she's here for me. So always give her a shout out. Always, show love, show my affection, my passion, for her, our relationship, and our future. So I love you, baby. With that being said, I like to like I was talking about was talking about Stephen A. Smith, and of course, everybody already know what happened this weekend. That the National Association of Black Journalists, gave him a thumbs down because of his record of making his comments towards black journalists, black women, just black athletes, and how he sort of like kisses up to the people at Fox News as far as Sean. He always brags about how he's friends with Sean Hannity. Whenever Trump called him a low IQ person and stuff. He got on when he got his platform, his show First Take. When Trump called him low IQ and everything, his little response was weak. All he said was he was more worried about Trump calling him a nice guy. You know, so he didn't sit there and get all upset when Trump was talking junk about him. But as soon as, like I said, the black journalist, he gave him a thumbs down, and he's all in his feelings. And every time somebody says something about him, he especially with black people saying that he's lost touch with the black community, that he gets in his feelings. And the first thing he do, he throws up, the fact that he does a show every year at Winston-Salem State because that's where he went. And don't get me wrong, that's for people at Winston-Salem, and for that, Winston-Salem State, and for that, that's big for him to bring that exposure. But it seemed like he does it just to boost his own ego. So when situations like this come, he can throw that up in there, man. I just do what I do for y'all, man. I give the HBCUs and all that, which don't mean nothing. Why do you give? Do you give to brag about it, or do you give because you want to see people do better? It seems to me he wants to brag about it. So use it as ammo when people try to, especially when black people, black women in general, try to, criticize him. So, that thumbs down to me was well deserved, because that's how he been acting. He goes out the way to criticize people, people of our complexion, and he goes out the way to, it seemed like, to lift up the likes of like Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, all the other, like the conservative leaning people and media and everything. He's seemed like he's always, leaning towards them. Even when Barack Obama was in office, he went up here and told, Barack Obama was a Democrat, so he went up there and said, I wish all black people would, vote Republican. This is the party that was straight up told him that they don't care about him, that they don't care what his policies are, whether they're good or bad. They're gonna obstruct him and vote against him. And he was telling black people who finally got representation in the White House, he wanted us to vote and vote against him. You know, and that's stuff like that. He has a record of that. Whenever a black athlete comes up short for whatever reason, he always takes the time out to put them down real hard. I mean, goes out the way to try to talk to them like he knows them and try to judge them, and especially like somebody smoking weed. He's famous saying stay off the weed and all that shit, and he never like whenever he didn't educate himself, he just to see that why were athletes doing this? Was there useful, or was it positive? Was it to for them to deal with pain or deal with any kind of thing? And he never like looked into that or tried to you know be on the side of the athletes. He was always on the side of the owners, the you know if there was a dispute between labor and management, he was always on the side of management. He was never on the side of labor. He always claimed, "I want people to get their money, get their dollars and stuff like that." But he don't care about he don't care about like he says he does, but he really doesn't. He only the way he cares about these athletes or these people that he talks about to boost himself up, to make himself look better. You know, he's the one flying around in a private jet and all that, and you want to say that he's in touch with the community when he's flying around. He's flying over the community. He's not going in the community, not like that. He sat here and I heard you talk more junk about Kevin Durant when he said something about you. You got up there and basically threatened this other black man on camera. But when Trump said something to you, like, yes, massa, that is funny, massa. At least I'm a good guy, massa. That's what he sounded like up here on television doing that. So and he's done it to himself because I was a fan of his coming up. I mean, when he first came out, I was a fan of his. Between him, it was him and Stuart Scott. There was another. The first name was Jay. I forgot his last name, but him and there was a few others. But you know, him and especially Stuart Scott. Seeing us represented up here on ESPN like that. He was at the beginning of his career when he was hungrier, when he was trying to achieve that level that he's at now. His critiques and his journalism and his delivery was a whole lot better. It was less like a cartoon character like it is now, and it seemed like it was more authentic. Now he seems like a cartoon character, and that's he's animated for no reason. Now he's talking about trying to run for president. Why? 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 I don't know why I like you. I mean, whatever. You're gonna get. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. Just. I mean, Trump won, so anything's possible. So I don't know, but I just feel like that he's. That the thumbs down was well deserved. He deserved that. And I don't care how much he cried about it. He deserved that. You sit up here and you know act like you know everything about the laws and government and military. So when ex-military, so ex what do you call him, Air Force man, ex-airman. I think he was in the Air Force. Senator Mark Kelly. He was husband of he's husband of the ex, I think it was he a senator or a congresswoman or senator one of I think I think Gabby Giffords, the one that got shot in the head, in Arizona while she was out campaigning. I think it was way back in like early late two. It wasn't 2010. It was somewhere around the era. It was after 2008, 2011, all that when the Tea Party came up, and and she got shot in the face by I don't know somebody, and she miraculously survived. And her husband was in the Air Force, and he came. I think he got out of military or and ran for Senate and won the Senate. But he's well educated about military law, and he told they criticized him. Man, Stephen A. one of the first ones up here criticizing this man for telling service members to don't follow an illegal order by the president. And Stephen A. got mad like somebody like somebody took his damn lunch money or something. And he was mad at that man for saying the correct thing, because you're not supposed to sit up here and do an illegal order, because once that president gone, and you got the answer for that. He don't have the answer for that. He's the president, but you have to answer for your illegal acts in a legal order. So yes, he's doing the right. He told them the right thing, but Stephen A. got in his feelings and sound like an idiot up here, man. I think he went on The View, and once again, he's him sitting up here just like, almost like talking down, like he's better than people. So he's sitting up here with all these women up here, and a black, I think a Hispanic woman, a white woman. Is different ethnicities. It wasn't just one. It wasn't just black women. We just out, and he was just talking down to them, especially when they don't agree with him. So like I said, it's sad to see what he has become, because he sat there and criticized Jason Whitlock for talking junk about him, but he's no better than Jason Whitlock. I mean, both of them are in the same boat. I mean, so when both of them sitting there talking junk about each other, it's like that meme when it don't be three Spider-Man, it's two Spider-Man sitting there pointing at each other. That's what him and Jason Whitlock look like, talking to each other. And it's just sad to see that black. We can't. It's hard for us to get to the status like that. And when some of us get to that status, for them to like behave like that, perform like that, or represent themselves and their family like that, and it's just just sad. It seems like to me you just trying to impress. Why are you trying to impress this man? Why are you trying to impress this white man who don't care about you? He can care less. Lose your voice tomorrow. Best believe they have somebody else in that position tomorrow. But you act like you are bigger than, you act like you bigger than the job you working for. You act like you bigger than that. People don't, it's when you let people, boost your ego up too much. You believe your own hype too much, and it's also like, and that's the downfall. Actually, what's so sad, like, I mean, they were pretty good together. I used to watch First Take, Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless when they were up there. They were real good together. They were, both of them, they brought out the best in each other. And when they separated, and you seen both of them, I mean, Stephen A. he got success, got money, but as far as his his quality of how he delivers stuff, it's declined. Like I said, he believed his own hype. He read all the press clippings. And the same thing happened to Skip Bayless. He went went to Fox Sports and FS1, and got his show with Shannon Sharp, Undisputed, and it was successful. Mainly because Skip was okay, but mainly because the personality of Shannon Sharp what made that show unique. And Skip Bayless, got believed, getting ego and felt like you were bigger than the show. Felt like you could say what you want to say, and these athletes and these people not going to say anything. And you found out, man. You sit up here and criticize these people, man. These athletes up here that work hard to get where they at, and they achieve some success. Just because they didn't achieve as much as the next person, don't mean they feel any less about it. So when he criticized Shannon, and things turned since then, and that's look where he at now. He's not on Fox. He don't have his show. He's on podcasts. He's scraping around here, man. Granted, he's had a long, successful career, but he sort of he's stumbling to the finish line, you know. So, and so him and Stephen A. Smith, man, they their egos. It's just sad to watch them because they were great together and they could have had this. They could have had a dynasty, but the egos thinking you are listening to everybody, listen to all the hype man, not having people in your corner that tell you the truth. That's part of the problem with a lot of these, like, whatever they are, superstars, athletes, entertainers, whatever. The problem, some of their downfall, or the reason why, growing up, they always say don't never meet, you don't ever want to meet your idol. You want to keep it in a not personally meet your idol. You might want to ask for a, don't want to meet them because that person might disappoint you because of how they are and stuff. So, excuse me, I was a little tired. I'm very, very sorry. Made me lose my train of thought. But yeah, you don't want to meet. You don't want to you don't want to meet people that you look up to because you end up not feeling disappointed. You put them on a pedestal, and then you find out that they aren't the person that you put them up to be, or just because the media or everybody put them up to be this sort of this level. You put them up there, and when you meet them, and you're like, damn, he was sort of a hole. So that's what happens sometimes. It's sad, but that's what happens. But you got to learn how to separate that. And that's sadly that's what it is sometimes. That's why I try not to get. I'm not don't get starstruck or meet people and stuff. I don't because when you get older, like I said, you get more knowledge, and you realize that these people are just like you. Because they have more money, they earn more income, or they, achieve a higher status, social status, or acquire more things. Don't mean that they are better than you. They still breathe the same air, as as Notorious Big say, they bleed just like us. Everybody bleed the same. Everybody, so try not to put these people on pedestals, or look at them no more than what they are. They entertain you. They're entertainers. They entertain you. That's it. Don't take these people for their word. Like, when you listen to something, just like me too. I'm like, this you can take, you don't listen to everything somebody says because they're giving you their opinion. What you do is you take bits and pieces of what people say and apply it to your life. You don't sit and listen to everyone, listen and go word for word what everyone says, because people slant stories, or they speak from their perspective, which might be different than somebody else's perspective, but still be the same story. So, you take things, you gather information and you put it together and you form your own opinion, or you form your own way, so that's why I would say that's with the whole thing with Stephen A. That's why it's so sad, because, I mean, he was a positive influence. He was a positive influence to people, and before, I don't know when it went. I don't know where it went wrong. I don't know where. I can't point. I know that he had gotten fired by ESPN early in his career. He went over to Fox. He was at Fox for a while and doing a little freelance. Got saw him on Fox, a little bit. So then he came back to ESPN. That's when he got with him and Skip Bayless, and he sort of took off since then. Stephen A. left, and to me, I felt like he's ever since Skip Bayless left, and ever since then He's always been trying to find that replacement, which he has never found. I like Max Kellerman up there, and that's when maybe it went bad when Terrell Owens told him on the air that, Max Kellerman, a white boy, was more black than him. And he told him that on a lot, and Stephen A. got in his feelings ever since then, and I mean, what did he say that was wrong? I mean, what did he say that was wrong? So, like I said, enough about him. I just wanted to say my 2 cents about him because I've seen, like, the weekend I heard about it. Give me 1 second, please. I'm sorry about that. My Alexa went off. I'm sorry. I had to come. I just went to text. I could have said something, but it's okay. But yeah, it's just it's sad to see, like this, because he was such, starting out, he was such an inspirational figure for people. He helped a lot. At first he was seen like his help was genuine, and he was giving opportunities to a lot of people, man. But the fact that he has also stepped on his own to get there, and this make it sad. You put him in no different category than you see the other people other races who have stepped on their own to get ahead. So, and like I said, it's well deserved. His thumbs down is well deserved. Matter of fact, he's gonna start whining. He get 2 thumbs down because of what for real, man. It's just sad. It's just sad. And then mad, like I say, get mad when you get called out, when somebody calls you out and stuff, instead of just, you sitting up here, seeing what kind of, I guess examining the criticism and seeing if it's deserved and taking a self-examination and looking into the mirror. No, he don't do that. He sit up here and start whining like a little baby, man. On his podcast, be whining. He be, all animated and stuff. Nobody don't care about that, man. People want to hear, to me personally, I listen to a podcast. If I'm looking at something like that, I want to be informed. It ain't about always the bloviation and the being all, animated and, all that, man. It's not about all that, man. I mean, you can have times when you can, but it's not about that, man. It's all about being, professional, being respectful. Being able to articulate your point, and with a little bit of wit, a little bit of humor, and sometimes a little bit of animation. But that can't, that's his whole stick, man. When he's not sitting up here screaming and stuff, that's whatever, man. Just, he's sitting up here again, and it's talking about Anthony Fauci, talking about he all mad talking about because he played the field, which was his right. I don't care about what Anthony Fauci said, because Anthony Fauci wasn't in charge of that. Who was in charge of that? Donald Trump. People forget about what was going on down there at that time. Trump was the one that was, criticizing Obama, talking about there wasn't enough PPE stock, and then when he was talking about, it wasn't the flu, man. It wasn't real. It was hoax. Then it was the China virus, the Kung Fu virus, and all the derogatory marks. Then it was about, it's not really that bad. You don't need no mask. You can put bleach in your body, man. That might kill it. All stuff like that. Then when there was a chance that there was a vaccine, then he ran out in front of it saying, yes, we trying to get the vaccine. We trying to do this Operation Warp Speed and all that stuff. People forget all that stuff. That was Trump. That wasn't they, and they using Fauci as the fall guy. So with all that, he didn't have to play. He didn't have to say nothing. They didn't say nothing when Trump pleaded the fifth more times than Fauci. 400 times, I think Fauci pleaded 115. I think. I don't remember the numbers. I try not to Google. I try to use my brain and see if I can remember stuff. But yeah, but he got all, you know, he got all butthurt about Fauci because he pleaded the fifth. What was his right? He talking about I did what Fauci said and I almost died. Okay, but you didn't die. And that was the thing about COVID. COVID killed you and you didn't die. So why are you complaining? You still here and you complaining because the man didn't get the man saved you. That's what I'm saying, man. He had like a fool, man. Just like I said, he deserved it. He deserved what he get. So you get no sorrow for me here. You know. I even called into his show one time whenever Cam Newton and Panthers lost to the Super Bowl, and I was a fan. And so the next day, that Monday, I called into his show talking about that and talking about how T.O. got left out of the first ballot Hall of Fame, and he was all like, that was a travesty of justice, and he didn't like that and all that. Now, T.O. ain't talking like that. T.O. saying it's on site with him. So yeah, I but what I'm saying, just I mean, I called him, I talked to him a little bit. I mean, it seemed like I mean, it was the same thing. It was okay. I mean, it wasn't nothing special. Nothing told him about that, but it's just man, oh how the mighty have fallen. Just because you got a lot of money don't mean that your crown is steady out there, man. I just feel like that all the support, especially all the support from people that's on my side of the color spectrum, has dissipated. It's going every day with the way he acting, and when he gonna look at the faces he gonna have around him. Or is he gonna recognize any face that he has around him? Recognize this skin color. I ain't talking about you might know the people, but you know you know them professionally. You don't know them personally. Like y'all not going to relate on any level other than something professional. I don't even know if we can relate to black people anymore. Maybe I don't know. I don't know. You always screaming out HBCUs and you from Hollis Queen like you supposed to be associated with Run DMC or something. Why you say that? Well, no one cares. No one cares. So like I said, you can keep on. You can keep on whining and keep on acting like that. What's so crazy is that even the way he acts and everything, we're forgiving people. We're still we'll still bring him back to the cookout. But he got the I don't know. I don't know what he has to do now. I don't know. He has to get that ego. First of all, he need to get out of it. He need the kill his ego. That ego, which has gotten him so much money, is killing him. Almost like what was that on Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, when he was using, palladium to power his arc reactor. I mean, Iron Man 2, what did Jarvis tell him? The same thing that is saving your life is killing you. And that's what it is. The same thing that is getting him money, the same thing that is making him very notable, very wealthy, that's what's killing him. It's making him money. He can fly in a private jet, but it's killing him because he has to fly over the neighborhood that got him that damn jet. He can't walk through it. But best believe, if it weren't for our supporting him, trust me, Stephen A. Smith would have been another fired ESPN casualty a long time ago. So yes, you like I said, I wish him the best, man. I don't hate, especially I'm not gonna knock. I mean, and I always say I don't knock black men for making money in this country because we've had so many obstacles in our lives to try to get ahead. That if you can weave through all that BS and get money, more power to you. Go ahead. Only thing I never respect is people that that stepped on us to get it, like people who you know like Stephen A. Like how he acts toward black athletes. And as I got older, I said, even people like Jay Z, who I looked up to, who I feel like one of the greatest of all time. But as I got older, I don't think that. I don't think him differently, like because you sold crack to your mama, and I can't overlook that. I don't give a damn how many plaques he got. I don't give a damn how many zeros in his bank account. I don't care how many number one albums he got, man. You sold crack to your mama. That's unforgivable. I don't care. As people think Pop was and all that, and he went through all that. He called his mom was on crack. He didn't sell it to her, and then he gave homage to her. What did he say? In the same sentence, he called her a daggone crack fiend. He called her a black queen. So nah, he didn't. Stuff like that, man. It just people who step on their own to get ahead, man. It's hard for me to respect that, man. Then you throw it up in people's face, and you made so much. You sold. Look, you made. As a matter of fact, with Jay Z, made money off it twice. You actually sold crack to your mom. You made money off of it. Then you made money off of telling people that you sold crack to her. That's who we supposed to like. Look, that's who we supposed to like turn to for inspiration and all that. Nah, nah, nah. You got to find something. Like I said, you got to find your own inspiration, man, and don't be afraid to. If you don't have to think like everybody, man. If everybody think one way, you're not forced to think that way. If you feel like something ain't right, you can voice it, and you don't have to like it because somebody else like it. Like it because you want to like it. And that's how we gonna do it. And get shout out to my man Ant Live, man. I see you, my man. Peace out, bro. I holler at you a little bit. We're gonna chop it up in a little bit. As my wife said, we're gonna be all in the cheese, man. And for those who, like for a lot of people, English speaking people who don't know, cheese mate is called gossip. You hear somebody say they into the cheese mate, that means they're talking that. And us as black folks, we know how to do it. We cheat. Telling black people, Mexicans, we cousins. On the one podcast, I'm gonna tell y'all the damn similarities that we have, and it's so crazy why there's like division and support. That division and the support is like not as strong as it should be from both sides with each other. But we are so much alike, man. One example: Mexican people eat tortillas with everything. Black people, we eat bread with everything, light bread. So bread and tortillas are the same thing. One comparison. But yeah, with that being said, I appreciate y'all being here with me today, man. It was a pressure pack. My wife sitting here, she was there right here looking at me, not looking at me. She was laying there asleep, but she got up looking at me. So yeah, feel like I did okay. Feel like I, performed under pressure. It's not hard. I mean, the more I do it, it gets easier. It's not like, when I first started doing it, it's not as, difficult. The words roll out better. I get my thoughts better. So, yeah, I can tell that, getting more and more comfortable with every time I do it. So, hopefully, we look at this, like I said, look at the game tape, and grow, get better. And And I'm thank y'all for being here with me, for taking this ride with me. Man. I know everybody can't be live because I don't do it. I do it. I try to do it various times, but at the same time, but I can't, man. Like I was gonna do it yesterday, but life happens. I have to do it today, so I'm still trying to bring it to y'all 3 times a week. Preferably Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But see, I'm gonna do it Tuesday, and I'll be here tomorrow and do it on Friday. So we still gonna do it, still trying to do it, still trying to, improve every time, trying to make sure the next show is better than the last show. That's all my goal is. Like I said, I can help one person out here, I can help them get through something. I feel like I've done my job. I thank y'all for being here with me. I like to, Ask y'all to hit the like and subscribe. Throw a comment up here. Just if you want me to talk about something, throw me a message. Throw me a message on the video. Let me know what y'all want to hear, what y'all want to talk about. What we can, what did I say that was wrong, or what you want to, discuss. Let me know. You know, like I said, we're trying to inform each one, teach one. That's how we do. I appreciate y'all being here with me today. As I always say, kiss your kids, kiss your loved ones. Let them know how you feel. Let them know, how you care. Let them know what's going on, because you never know. As you say, young actress that died a few days ago, 36 years old. Like I said, let them know, because you never know. It might be tomorrow, might not be here. So, let me say I love y'all. Y'all have a good evening. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace.